Hello, dear friends. At last, the big bad wolf of the Little Red Riding Hood has arrived. Pluto in Aquarius starts to do its thing with the collapse of Deutsche Bank, while a severe and unexpected solar storm has arrived. Opinion piece. The wolf is here. Deutsche Bank crashes. It is an epic crash. We are already very close. Decline foretold. Banks are failing. European banking is affected. European stock markets in the red. More turbulence ahead. Risk of debt default. Effects of Pluto in Aquarius. Banks are melting down. Bankruptcy season is upon us. Deutsche Bank is not Credit Suisse. Transport strike in Germany. Social unrest in France and Germany. 400 protesters arrested in France. Switzerland investigates Credit Suisse takeover. Spain will have a large quantum computer. Biggest solar storm in 6 years has arrived. Unexpectedly severe solar and financial storm. Let's start. Panic and jitters again in European financial markets at the expenses of banks. This time it was Deutsche Bank, Germany's largest bank, that dragged down the continent's banking sector. Its shares ended the day down 8.5% on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Almost a relief, seeing how it had lost 40% at one point in the morning. This came after the bank announced plans to redeem $1.5 billion of subordinated debt, 5 years before maturity, and its insurance against default soared. Deutsche Bank plunged as much as 40% to its biggest fall in 3 years, raising the cost of insuring its debt against default as the banking crisis spreads to Europe. The risk of default on its subordinated debt soars. Unexpected severe solar and financial storm. Meteorologists didn't see it coming. On 23rd and 24th March, Aurora Borealis swept across New Mexico during a severe G4 geomagnetic storm, the most intense in nearly 6 years. The cause of the storm is still unclear. It may have been a domino effect of a solar mass ejection. Opinions. According to Judy Bington, Credit Suisse is on the verge of defaulting on its derivatives contracts, which could create credit default swaps and trigger a black swan event that would set in motion a domino effect. She adds that the coalition has confirmed that its objective has been much more complex, slower, and more difficult than anticipated and planned. It is becoming increasingly clear that the information that will change the world is about to be made public, probably sooner than expected. We are close, very close. Some believe we have reached the moment when the new currency will complete the fall, writes American Patriot. Jared Rand believes that the fiat financial system is collapsing, as we see in the bank failures. Over 200 banks have already failed around the world. Fear not, the QFS will take over and reflect the above. The dark side have no money and no gold. Currency devaluation will not occur until the old system is gone, so there can be no interference. Many big companies are expected to go bankrupt. The media are hiding many financial failures, and the fact that 39 countries no longer accept the petrodollar to sell their goods. He believes that the presidents of the powers that be are not the original ones and are taking orders from the coalition. Jared Rand also reveals that you can breathe on the surface of Mars, but the air is rarefied as it is at a high altitude on Earth, and that they are terraforming Mars using special pines to reclaim it. It was like Earth, but there was a war 2 million years ago in which 4 factions destroyed most of the life on Mars. According to Goldilocks, the current banking crisis is boosting venture technology opportunities. A lot of liquidity is currently being placed in the new digital economy. There is currently a credit crunch in the bond market. Markets are at an inflection point when money is shifting from one hand to the other. The cancer next week is for those who do not receive liquidity. The danger of short selling could drive many stocks lower. The bond market is very uncertain. Clearly, we are approaching a transition point in the future of our economy. In short, we are in a credit squeeze. A credit squeeze means that difficult decisions are currently being made about who will be provided with liquidity for the coming week. This is the place where institutional money determines the direction of our economy takes. Welcome to the world of regulation. On the other side of the world, the BRICS nations are now growing. The new development bank is a multilateral bank established by the BRICS that supports public or private projects through loans, guarantees, equity, and other financial instruments, and the use of the Chinese yuan to meet these new growth models is growing. The leveling of the playing field is underway. Irrational market. Deutsche Bank and UBS plunge on the stock market as the risk of default on their subordinated debt soars. Market pressure shifts to Deutsche as Credit Suisse is resolved. Deutsche Bank is not Credit Suisse. It is the new victim of an irrational market. Investors seem to believe that German bank will be the next to collapse. The Swiss parliament launches an investigation into the takeover of Credit Suisse. Banking stocks fall as global investors seek safer shores. US banks are sitting on $1.7 trillion in unrealized losses. Bank of America warns of more market turmoil. Big investors repeat their moves on 2008 and 2020. It expects sharp rate cuts in the next 12 months. Banks are melting down, says Elon Musk. Recently, the former vice chairman of Lehman Brothers Bank, which failed during the 2008 crisis, Lawrence McDonald, warned that 50 new banks could fail before the authorities solve their structural problems. Gold is heading for its 4th week rise on banking worries. Korean Dongwon, a major cryptocurrency scammer, is arrested. China's central bank cuts rates to boost the economy. US and China wage war beneath the wages. And the sea cables, which carry the world's data, are central to the technology war. Washington thwarted Chinese projects overseas and blocked high-tech cable routes to Hong Kong, according to Reuters. US Congresswoman calls existence of Chinese satellite station in Argentina frightening, in quotes. And they are not looking at the stars. Republican Maria Elvira Salazar recalled that the Pentagon called the base of a threat as early as 2019. Alarm on European stock markets. Deutsche Bank's plunge moderated at the close to 8.53%, but rushed European banks down with it. The big European banks ended the day in the red, and with them the stock markets. Paris lost 1.74%, Frankfurt 1.66%, and London 1.26%. The Spanish IBEX limited its weekly rise to 0.7% after a new wave of doubts about European banks. The German Economics Institute advises against rescue operations as in the 2008 crisis, saying that the situation is not the same, while warning that it is necessary to ensure that banks continue to have sufficient equity capital. Lagarde assures European leaders that the ECB is prepared to inject liquidity into the Eurozone, if necessary. The prices of major European banks fell sharply again on Friday, suggesting that investors' nerves have not been calmed by the recent intervention of financial authorities, after the major central banks continued to raise interest rates despite the turbulence unleashed by the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in the US and the bailout of Credit Suisse. Repercussions. A major failure of Deutsche Bank is likely to have a significant effect on the global financial system due to its size and reach in international financial markets. Deutsche Bank is one of the largest banks in Europe and the world, and has a large amount of debts and liabilities on its books. If the bank is unable to meet these obligations, it could have a domino effect on other banks and companies that have business relationships with Deutsche Bank. In addition, the collapse of Deutsche Bank could lead to a major loss of confidence in the banking and financial system in general, which could trigger a global financial crisis. This could affect stock markets, the global economy, and currency exchange rates. Deutsche Bank AG is a global banking and financial services company headquartered in the Twin Towers of Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt am Main. It employs more than 100,000 people in over 70 countries and has a strong presence in Europe, the Americas, Asia Pacific, and emerging markets. The bank offers financial products and services for corporate and institutional clients, along with private and business clients. Deutsche Bank's core business is investment banking, which accounts the half of its assets and profits and 75% of its leveraged assets. Protests. Social unrest intensifies in Germany. Transport strike in Germany on the 27th to demand a 10% increase for civil servants. A strike has been called, which will affect all public transport, as well as air and rail traffic. The streets of France burn. More than 400 police officers injured in protests. Violence takes over the demonstrations against pensions cuts in France. The French country has experienced its most violent night since the start of the protests against the French government's pension cuts, a day that has resulted in more than 450 arrests and more than 900 fires in Paris alone, to which must be added the burning of the door of the Bordeaux City Hall. More than 400 arrested in France following protests against pension reform. Family members are increasingly complaining of arrests described as arbitrary and unjustified, in quotes. To shout of free our comrades, relatives and friends of some of the detained have demanded their release. Charles III delays his visit to France because of protests. Macron removes and hides the luxury watch he was wearing during a televised interview. Hundreds of thousands of people in Hungary live without running water. Depleted uranium munitions could cause cancer among NATO troops. Spain. 15 aircraft are trying to control the fire between Castellón and Teruel in Spain. The Spanish Treasury will require crypto firms to declare their clients' balances. Spain will have one of the most advanced quantum computers in the world by 2024. This is the Basque country's largest investment in a scientific infrastructure, which will form part of a network of 6 of this type of equipment on a global scale. Profound change. Pluto is considered the planet of transformation, deep change and regeneration, Aquarius is known to be a sign that is concerned with community progress, innovation, and revolution. So Pluto's entry into Aquarius could bring profound changes in these areas. There may be a greater focus on the use of technology for community well-being and the creation of new forms of organization and collaboration. There may also be a shift in social and cultural values towards greater freedom and tolerance. Pluto's entry into Aquarius has a significant astrological effect, as both Pluto and Aquarius are powerful and transformative energies. Pluto is generally believed to represent death and regeneration, while Aquarius represents innovation and technology. Therefore, Pluto's entry into Aquarius could have an impact on the way technology and innovation are used to transform and renew society on a profound level. A greater emphasis on issues such as equality, freedom, and human rights could also be expected, as these are core Aquarian values. Effects. In general, it is believed that Pluto's entrance into Aquarius could have the following effects. First, social and technological transformation. Aquarius is the sign associated with innovation, technology, and social change. With Pluto in Aquarius, a profound transformation could be expected in this environment, driven by technological advances and the demand for new forms of social organizations. Second, changes in the perception of identity. Pluto is associated with death, transformation, and rebirth, while Aquarius relates to individuality and freedom. Pluto's entry into Aquarius could bring about changes in the way people perceive their identity and their place in the world, as well as a greater acceptance of diversity and uniqueness. Third, social conflicts and tensions. Pluto is also associated with power and the struggle for control, and in Aquarius, this could manifest in conflicts between the interests of individuals and those of the community. In addition, Pluto's energy can be intense and destructive, which could lead to social and political tensions. Fourth, changes in the nature of communication. Aquarius is associated with technology and social networking, and Pluto could bring about profound changes in the way we communicate and relate to each other. New forms of communication and relationships may emerge, as well as an increased reliance on technology. Fifth, in summary, Pluto's entry into Aquarius could bring about significant changes in technology, communication, identity, and society in general. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.